Hey everybody, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Ready Set Crypto. Today is Wednesday, the 26th of July, and we're going to take a look at the charts and see what we have here, and I'm going to take your requests as well. All right, I'm going to park myself down in the lower left-hand corner, and I want to know where you guys are coming in from today. Where are you located? And then ultimately, where or what would you like to see displayed in the charts today? What are your coins? What are your coin pairs that you'd like to see today? So again, my name is Doc, and we're going to be here for maybe about the next half hour or so. That's usually how long we meet up. You know, we get together usually about once a week or so and just kind of go over the charts. If this is your first time, welcome aboard. So we got Robert from Slovenia. We got Glazai from Eastern Netherlands. We have Ray Run from Simpsonville. Hey, I'm up here on off of North Main in Greenville. So a local. Thanks for checking in, Ray. We have Math coming in from sunny in Seattle, and Ray wants to look at the XRP chart. Can do. And Willeke also coming in from the Netherlands, and Roger coming in from Norway. Checking in too to see if I'm getting above water anytime soon. All right. Well, let me start off here. Thank you guys for checking in. And let me start off here by talking about Bitcoin. So the broader picture here, if we go out to the weekly chart, we can see, you know, the highs of the 2021 bull, which has given way to the bear. Now, unfortunately, let me get my pen out here. Unfortunately, what we have here is, there we go. Bear with me a second here as I get this thing set up. What we have here since the beginning of the year has been a weekly uptrend, which is great. So that's terrific. But what I want to make sure is that this is not just a lower high that's going to come back down again. Now, I personally think that this is the fact that this has gone on for 7 months now means that we have transitioned over to the bull. And what I'd like to see from here is I'd like to see a drop or some place a drop, but I want to see a printed higher low, which usually leads to a higher high from here. So I want to see that on the monthly chart. So this is going to be a pretty substantial pullback. Now, we've seen these types of moves here before on these things. This is a monthly higher low. That was a nasty one to go through, but you'll notice that it led to a higher high. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. So this to me is different from what we've been through so far this year in the first 7 months, is different from just another reflexive lower high setting up on BTC versus the US dollar. So I think this is good. However, you might want to anticipate a little bit of pain, maybe in the back half of this year, as we go through the normal process of setting up a higher low. And that's going to give you some opportunities. It's not going to feel very good, but I think it's going to give you some opportunities to accumulate at a lower price. Who else is coming in here? We got Steph from Amsterdam. We got Tony from Italia. We have, let's see, Steph wants to look at Archie and Pendle. Outstanding. And Glass Eyes looking for KAS versus USD. All right, super guys. Thank you very much. Now, everything else is depending upon what happens with this. Bitcoin needs to be the one that blasts through overhead resistance and kind of opens up the rest of the market. That's been its role for the past however many years, right? So we're coming up on 14 years. This has been its role, always. Okay, let's get into some of the requests that we got here. And I'm going to start with Ray Run from Simpsonville. XRP. Simpsonville. I was just in Simpsonville watching Oppenheimer this past Saturday. Interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie before, and I don't want to do any spoilers, but it was kind of like, it was awesome 3-hour movie. Really, really interesting, but you kind of, I don't know. I mean, you walk away from it going, what did I just see? It didn't really have that emotional impact, wasn't life-changing or anything like that, but very, very interesting. Okay. What was the expression I heard? It was unemotional and excessively labyrinth. So, okay, let's get into XRP. So if we look at this on the daily chart, again, I should probably back up here to the weekly chart. So the weekly chart, what we've been talking about at length for the longest time, is this rounded base with a 55-cent upper neckline. So as long as it was sitting around, crashing around in here, we said, stay away from this, stay away, or you can accumulate if you want to, but wait for this thing to get above there. Now that has got to hold. That has got to hold. So we saw XRP jump up based on the lawsuit that it may or may not have won against the SEC. We'll see. We'll see whether or not that is the case. But it may be a couple of years before the appeal goes through. There's a heck of a caseload, and you got to get in line. Okay. Remember, be back in September. Okay. So as long as this holds up here, now there's certain things that we can do on the daily chart. So what we can do is we can look at fibs, and we can make sure that it's holding standard fib retracement. So if we take it from the bottom to the top, here's the 50% retracement, and it's also holding, what's important is it's holding this anchored VWAP here, which goes back to the July lows. So that's not too bad. So you can see that here. I think you can see that here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It goes back to the June lows. So the anchored VWAP, the most recent one, is still holding pretty well. Now, so I want to see it hold that 50%. At the worst, I don't want to see it break down below 65 cents. Because typically if it breaks a 61.8 retracement, it will fill in the triangle. So at all costs, it's got to hold 55 cents. So this is okay. I don't mind seeing it doing some shake and bake here. My preference would be to see that it holds the anchored VWAP there at about 67 cents. That's cool. But as long as it holds 65, that's good. If it starts to drop below here, then we may be in trouble on XRP. So assets like this constantly need some type of catalyst to keep the buyers, because right now the bears are still in control on anything but BTC. Okay, so that is XRP. Next one I see from Steph is Archie. So I'll do what I can to find these. Some of these I've not heard before. Okay, so Archie, I don't think I can check this versus, oh yes we do. So, well, there's Archie or Arch. So I'm just going to say, let's look at this versus wrapped Ethereum. And this actually is a beautiful chart. Wrapped Ethereum looks terrific. So we can see that it's holding this trend line. So watch this trend line and watch how it operates around the trend line. But that looks up. So the Archie token versus wrapped Ethereum, I don't know if I can find anything where it's versus US dollar. Yeah, I just don't see anything here. So you're going to have to get it wrapped. And I don't think, yeah, it's not Archimedes, so that's a totally different token. So that Archie versus wrapped Ethereum looks really good. And Ethereum right now is going nowhere, so it's acting as a pretty good reference currency. All right, next one is Pendle. Pendle versus USDT. All right, so Pendle versus USDT. This one is relatively new. It's not been treated kindly. And this is pretty much the case for any new coin. We're going to see an initial pump, and then we're going to see a dump. And so what I would do is I would follow this trend line, connect all the highs along in here, and this will probably come up and get rejected once again at the highs. And then wait until it's able to break above that trend line. And then if you want something even more robust, make sure it breaks above that higher low. Or lower high in this case, a lower high, make sure it breaks above there, and then that is your buy point at that point. So that's my view on Pendle right now. Let's see, Pendle, yeah, that's Pendle USDT. Okay. All right, Glasseye wants to look at KAS. Kaspa versus USDT. This one looks really good as well too. So let's kind of zoom out on this one and let's see what's going on. So we're going to go out to the weekly chart. And this is actually a pretty healthy looking weekly chart. So what this is setting up is this is kind of a cup, and you would expect to see some type of a handle show up at this point. Why would you expect to see cup and handle? Because typically when the price goes ripping higher like this, it usually will exhaust itself. As you can see on the daily chart, we're into exhaustion, and this is starting to set up with a consolidation. Right, a little bit of consolidation. So it's starting that process of setting up the cup with handle. Okay, so weekly chart is not yet at exhaustion, so this could actually break out above 4 cents. So that's Kaspa versus USDT. Looks really nice, though. So that one was for Glasseye. Okay, so MAF wants to look at a Bitfarms mining stock. Let's see if we can find it. BITF. Bitfarms Limited. So that's on the NASDAQ. Okay, so weekly chart, again, we have kind of the same thing. Boy, does this look like crypto, right? We have this rounded base, and we have this overhead neckline, which is just above $2. So it's got to smash through that. Now, look at what's happening with the volume. The volume is expanding. So this is actually a good sign here. The problem is that there's not much energy left for this thing to break. But that's on a weekly chart. Now, if we look at the daily chart looks pretty good right now. We're going through a pullback. So the neckline on this is going to be above 220. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this chop around for a little while here at 220 before smashing through on pretty good volume. So watch for that one. So your neckline is 220 for this one, or you can accumulate wherever you want to. But I'd say the chart looks really positive since the beginning of the year. No surprise for Bitfarms. Okay, Willicky wants to look at Chainlink. So Chainlink has recently sort of woken up again all over, just like it's 2019 again, right? So Chainlink has got, and I'm going to keep saying this, rounded base, setting up an extended base. We saw this back in 2020 everywhere. We saw these extended bases setting up, and then we eventually broke higher from them in late 2020. And so you can see the same thing on Chainlink. Chainlink has got a terrible looking chart, but recent history is this rounded base. If I go out to the weekly chart, you can see how rotten this thing has been. But this is how things reverse. Bang, 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 bang. There's no such thing as a quadruple bottom. Eventually what happens is it gets tired of trying to smash through there and eventually goes in the opposite direction. So watch this trend line. You can see this trend line here a little bit more easily in the daily chart. Let's see if we can match that here. This trend line right there is what's keeping things in check on Chainlink. So once it gets above, I'd say about 850 or so, and we're going to have to see some pretty good volume on this to get it to smash through. That may be a really good play at relatively cheap. Okay. That is Chainlink. All right, so let's go back to stocks and let's look at Riot Blockchain. Riot Blockchain, and some of these are starting to be, look at this. We have former downtrend. All of a sudden, we start to move into this very linear pattern of breakout consolidation. Breakout consolidation. This is where the fractals will help you, understanding the fractals, because we can now look at the energies of each different time frame. So if we zoom in on these, we can see the energy screaming higher at this point on the daily chart. Weekly chart is in exhaustion. So this is going to take a few more weeks, more than likely, to break through from here. Guess what? We have another rounded base with a very similar neckline, which is going to come in right above 20 or so. That's going to be about, what, 21 or something? Yeah, just above 20. Just above 20. So that's that rounded base again. And you're going to get sick of me saying the same thing over and over again, but about $21 is the neckline of that rounded base. It's going through consolidation. It's setting up very nicely. But for this not to be just another lower high, it needs to break strongly above there on good volume. So that's Riot Blockchain. Okay, Rob wants to look at Ethereum versus the US dollar. Let us do that. Okay, so Ethereum versus the US dollar. Let's kind of zoom in on here. This is just a big choppy mess. I mean, since the attempted breakout back in April, we have gone nowhere. We've gone nowhere. Now watch in particular the green line. The green line is the 200-day moving average. And it's not a signal per se, but it's more of a filter because it represents the mean of the price movement. Anything above this represents a longer-term uptrend. Price above the 200 represents a longer-term uptrend. So don't be surprised if we see another dip back down because we've tried to break out. How many times? How many times has this tried to break out above 2,000? Every time it tries to break out above 2,000, it gets pounded back down again. So the way that you move is, again, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So this is where people will start to sell and the shorts will start to jump in on this thing. And the institutions are waiting for this. Institutions and whales are waiting down in this area to accumulate. And so once the weekend shorts start jumping on this thing, weekend means that they have no tolerance for loss. And so once they put the hammer down, then all those weekend shorts, to close out their short positions, they have to buy them back, and that adds demand, and this is where we get these slingshot movements from. Very similar to what would happen here. So I would say if this comes down to somewhere in the 1750 to 1800 level, close to that 200-day moving average in green, this is where we're going to get our move. Okay. That's Ethereum versus US dollar. Okay. Yes, that's the Archie. Okay. It's on Arbitrum. No USDT yet. Okay, cool. EWT. Let's look at, every time I do that, I always think it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. EWT. So let's look over here at crypto. EWT, US dollar. Okay, I think I have the right one here. Okay. This one's got a ways to go. This one is not particularly healthy right now. I think you can see where the base is on this one. Here's the upper neckline of the base, which is about $5. And right now we're down near closer to the bottom of the base, which is right around 250 or so. So 250 is really the floor of this. $5 is the ceiling of the base. This one's got a lot of work to do before it gets anywhere. Right now, the market does not think much of EWT. That's not my read on it. It's just that if you look at a weekly chart, all you see for the last year and a half is just distribution. People are getting rid of it. People are not accumulating this one yet. So don't take that personally. That's just the market's view on it, irrespective of what we all think about it. Okay, so that's EWT. And next one, can you chart WLD? WLD. WorldCoin. This is what, 2 days? Yeah, there's one candle, one weekly candle, and we have 1, 2, 3 daily candles. So there's not much that I can say on WorldCoin yet. So it'd be interesting to see. Supposedly, people in the U.S. are not allowed to trade this. Man, is the SEC getting its nose into everybody's shorts these days. All right, so that's for WorldCoin. There's not much that we can look at just yet. This thing needs some history behind it. So we're probably going to get a pump. We'll probably get a sell. And then eventually, at some point, the fair value would become evident. All right, Solana. Let's look at Solana. This one has come a long way since being taken underwater through a negative association with FTX back here in November. So it's got a long way to go. And last week when we talked about this one, I drew up this trend line here. I connected all the dots and said, it's got to break above that trend line. So let me move this up here so you can see it a bit better. This really connects all of the important highs that we've seen on Solana over the past, it's coming up, it's over a year now. So for this descending pattern, this will eventually break to the upside. But let it do its thing below that trend line. As long as it's below that trend line, just leave it alone. Once it breaks out above that trend line, you can be notified. You can actually set up an alert on this. You can add an alert on trend line. Solana crossing the trend line. Send yourself an email. Solana crossing the trend line. And do something about it then. But as long as it's below there, just let it go. There's better places for your capital. I've heard ADA is in trouble. Well, it certainly is in trouble from a charting perspective. It's terrible. So Cardano looks atrocious right now. Cardano is terrible. It's near the lows of the last 2 years. It's barely holding support, which is really interesting because it's the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crypto. So after we get through with crypto number 3 is in trouble. Crypto 4 had just won its court date, allegedly. And crypto 5 is now in trouble. So really, this is a very, very top-heavy market. But yeah, I don't know anything fundamentally about Cardano. I tried to stay away from that stuff because I don't want to be influenced by the fundamentals. I just look at the price and I say the market hates this right now. So once again, that red trend line is your friend. So let me paint it something different here so it stands out a bit. So this trend line is your friend. As long as it's below there, you stay away from it. Rob wants to look at the S&P 500. And that is a weekly chart. So yeah, here we are today. Today's just a little doji day. Little doji day with the Fed. So we've had movements up, we've had movements down. Right now it looks like the S&P is net down for the day with about 5 minutes to go. But it is range expansion, range contraction. This is a very, very healthy since we broke above 4,200. This is extremely healthy price behavior. This is an ascending triangle. Breakout from an ascending triangle. This is an even smaller ascending triangle. So they are getting smaller, and that means that we're probably about to see some type of a distribution event, which is healthy because the weekly chart is kind of gotten ahead of itself. Weekly chart is very, very extended right now. So we may be seeing some distribution in the near future. Okay, so last one I've got here is, I've got this stupid heart thing in the way. If I could get this thing out of my way, let's see. Can you please check QANX? Zilliqa. All right, so we'll start with QANX. All right, this is another one where, well, look at that. Okay, so we do have a USDT. Ooh, that's not good. Now, that was back in October. All right, so let's look at a wrapped ether, and that's better. This is a wrapped ether version of it, and it's one of these bases again. So here's the base on wrapped ether, like so. And it's healthy right now. It's not particularly going anywhere, but it's at least healthy and moving in the right direction. So that's QANX. Let's look at Zilliqa. Okay, Zilliqa versus Tether. And this one does not look good right now. So this is in a pretty serious weekly trend, and I don't see any bounce off of support yet. So this is one that's making lower highs, lower lows. Wait till this starts to make higher highs and higher lows on the weekly chart. This one does not look particularly healthy right now. Okay, so the next one is XPLL, parallel chain. And this one's brand spanking new. This one is brand spanking new. And there's not much that we can get from this. This is very traditional, where you get your initial pump and then you get sold off, and it's got to find some support. It's got to find itself. It's almost like an airplane taking off, right? So you get down to the end of the runway, you try to claw your way into the air, and then you got to get altitude. You got to establish altitude. You can't go bouncing around and porpoising at the end of the runway, banging off the runway again and coming up. You've got to get some altitude. You got to establish that altitude. It's so important. And right now, it's not been able to do that. So every new coin goes through this. WorldCoin will go through this same thing. Okay, last one on the list is QNT versus BTC. QNT versus BTC. So let's look at it this way. Okay. Now this is tough because anytime that you have coin X versus BTC, what's the trend with BTC been since the beginning of the year? It's been up. So what that means is that any asset has got to go up even further. There's that closing bell. Two of them. Echo. So any asset that you have has got to go up even further than BTC to be able to appreciate gains. So this is where the selection of your reference currency is very important. So right now the USD is going down in value. So anything referenced versus the USD is generally going up right now. Okay, so QNT versus Bitcoin is in a pretty horrid looking downtrend. And this is because it's not offering any premium value versus Bitcoin at this point. Okay, last one here. Last one was, we got a late request here for Storm X. And we'll do that versus the US dollar. Boy, talk about bad liquidity for Stormex. Anytime you see a chart that's doing this, you just have no price discovery at all. I would avoid this one like the plague for right now. This has no price discovery. This has no effective market in it. Rob is saying, interesting, the talk of recession has been going on for a bit, but the S&P is approaching all-time highs. Yep. This was the most predicted recession that I've seen in decades, in a long time. And because of that, everybody would get on TV in the morning and would say, yep, we're going to be a recession, probably happening in about 30 days from now. Almost like predicting to the moment. And anytime everybody agrees on something, the exact opposite will happen. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And it's because using commonly available information to make predictive statements like that, the market's already factored that in. It doesn't care anymore. Okay, we'll sneak one more in here for Seb, RVF, and then we will hit the road here. Okay, this is Rocket Exchange, and this one's moving and grooving. Look at it go. All right, it's only been around just for a couple of weeks, though. And it's already gone through its initial pump, and that's doing pretty well. So what I want you to watch for here is fib retracements. Throw them on here. So fib retracements from bottom to top of the move. It's holding 38.2 right now. That's good. It's got to hold 61.8. Otherwise, it's coming all the way back down again. So as long as this holds 61.8, you got yourself something. You can get into something fairly early here. It's pretty cheap. Okay, guys, that's all I got for today. Thanks for showing up. Remember to check out our trial at readysetcrypto.ONE. readysetcrypto.ONE is you can get a week of free trial out there. Come and play. All right, so thanks, everybody, and have yourself a great Wednesday. You guys take care. Bye now. Be good.